The Foundry by Forge College. Hey everyone, I'm your host. And look, if there's one thing I love more than a perfectly written line of code, it's breaking down complex Web3 concepts so we can actually build amazing things with them. Today, we're rolling up our sleeves. We're tackling something every Web3 developer needs in their toolkit right now: guided identity integration. We're going to take some of those abstract ideas floating around out there and turn them into concrete running code.
Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly do we prove who we are without showing everyone our underwear? I know it's a pretty funny mental image, but honestly, in Web3, this is literally the million-dollar question. When I say underwear, I'm talking about your most sensitive, private data, right? Your email, your real name, your birth year, the whole shebang. We want to prove we hold certain credentials on the blockchain, but we absolutely, under no circumstances, want to expose all our personal details to the entire public internet. No way. So today, we are going to solve that exact problem.
To get through the technical weeds together, we've got a really clear step-by-step recipe today. We're going to cover 1. The privacy problem. 2. Gathering our ingredients. 3. Hashing and mapping. 4. Building and signing claims. And finally, number 5, the verification taste test.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the privacy problem. Let's zoom all the way in.
So, in our previous explainer, we looked at transaction batching and chaining strategies, which gave us a fantastic view of the macro network level. But today, we're zooming all the way in to a localized, privacy-first integration. We're shifting our focus from how transactions flow across the network to how data is securely bound to an individual identity on-chain. To pull this off, we really need to understand two key players. First up is the Soulbound Token, or SBT. You can think of an SBT as a digital name tag that you wear. Once it's pinned on, you can't just take it off or hand it to someone else. Second, we have the decentralized identifier, the DID. Think of the DID as a cryptographic permission slip that actually proves you're allowed to wear that specific name tag. Now, the major risk here, and it's a terrifying one, is that if you put raw, unencrypted data on that digital name tag, it is permanently exposed on a public blockchain for everyone to read forever. We absolutely have to prevent that.
Moving right along to Section 2, gathering our ingredients.
We are going to build a small integration script using Node.js. And honestly, the best part? You don't even need to connect to any live blockchains or external network services. Everything we do today is going to happen right in your local, deterministic environment. We're doing this so you can focus entirely on the integration logic itself, rather than wrestling with annoying network configurations. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how neatly it organizes our data models for us. We've got 3 main artifacts. First, the token object, where the absolute golden rule is to only store hashes or labels, never ever raw sensitive values. Second, the claim JSON, which includes the issuer, the subject, and that hashed sensitive data. And finally, the signature, which actually verifies the claim. The strict, non-negotiable privacy rule here: keep your private key local. Always. Don't ever let that leave your machine.
Which brings us to Section 3, hashing and mapping.
All right, this is the stage where we basically act as the bouncer for our data. We have to look at every single attribute on our digital name tag and decide what's safe to expose in plain text and what absolutely must remain completely hidden. For the stuff that needs to stay hidden, we use hashing. Think of hashing as cryptographically scrambling data. It's exactly like putting a strawberry into a blender to make a smoothie. If someone takes a sip of that smoothie, the unique taste proves unequivocally that a strawberry went into the blender, right? But no matter how hard they try, they can literally never reconstruct the original whole strawberry out of that smoothie. It's a one-way street.
Let's look at a super concrete example to ground this. We start with plain text data. We've got Alice's highly sensitive email and her totally non-sensitive role as a mentor. When we run our privacy-aware mapping, the role stays perfectly clear. Everyone can see she's a mentor, no problem. But her email? That goes right through the blender. It becomes a completely obscured SHA-256 hash string. We can mathematically prove it's her email later on, but nobody just looking at the token can actually read alice@example.com. Pretty cool, right?
All right, Section 4, building and signing claims.
So, with our ingredients prepped and our data safely mapped, this is where the rubber meets the road. We open up our code editor, mix our ingredients together, and use our cryptographic keys to securely bind this identity claim right in our Node.js script. Here's the general logic flow. First, we generate our ed25519 keys. Second, we map and hash our attributes. Remember, blending that strawberry. Third, we sign the claim using our local private key. And fourth, we attach and verify. Now, getting hands-on with this exact logic is the kind of deep dive we do all the time in other courses at Forge College. But for now, let's look a little closer at Step 3.
Before we actually sign our claim, we really have to talk about canonicalization. I know it's a big, intimidating word, but honestly, it just means ensuring our data is perfectly and consistently formatted every single time. Imagine baking a cake, okay? If you measure a cup of flour by packing it down super tight one day and then leaving it totally loose the next, your cakes are going to turn out completely different. Canonicalization just means we measure the data the exact same way before hashing, so our verification hashes match perfectly later on.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Once the claim is built, signed, and perfectly canonicalized, we don't just dump the whole massive claim onto the token. No way. We just attach a tiny reference pointer, literally only the claim hash, the signature, and the issuer DID. That is it. It's a massive win because it keeps the heavy, highly sensitive data entirely off-chain while still maintaining perfect cryptographic proof.
And finally, Section 5, the verification taste test.
Okay, so we've built our integration, but we definitely can't just blindly assume it works. We need to run a local routine to verify if our claim actually securely proves our identity without leaking a single drop of that sensitive data we worked so hard to protect. So the crucial point is that when we run our verification script, all three of these indicators must return true. First, the claim hash stored on the token must perfectly match the computed hash of our claim string. Second, the cryptographic signature has to be valid and authentic. And third, the payload must be consistent, meaning the hashed email on the token perfectly matches the hashed email in the claim. If all three of those pass, boom, your integration is secure.
But what if they don't pass? Hey, it happens to the best of us. Let's put on our debugging hats for a second. If your claim hash mismatches, it is almost always an inconsistent canonicalization issue. Usually it's just a rogue space or some tiny white space difference. If you're getting an invalid signature, double-check that you're actually passing the correct public key, or maybe look for a base 64 decoding error. And if that mismatched email error pops up, you probably just have a stray character or a hidden new line in your original string before you hashed it. No big deal. Just trim your strings, clean it up, and try again.
Listen, if you take only one thing away from this entire explainer today, please let it be this. Treat the token as a minimal index or pointer, not as a repository for sensitive data. This right here is the foundational philosophy of decentralized identity. The token is just the signpost. The actual sensitive data lives securely off-chain, mathematically bound to the token through that magical blender of hashing. Well, congratulations. You have just built a secure, privacy-preserving identity integration mental model. The next logical step for you is taking this solid foundation and expanding it to handle multi-attribute and multi-issuer scenarios. To keep building on this, I highly recommend you visit forge.college. It is an absolutely incredible resource packed with materials to help you master these exact skills and literally take your Web3 knowledge to the absolute next level. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. We've seen today how cryptography and smart data mapping can completely, undeniably protect your sensitive information. So I have to ask, if math can guarantee your privacy better than a massive centralized corporation, what part of your identity will you take back next? Keep building, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.